Hello, I'm your host, Effie Pilarinu, and today our site is turning towards the east, where innovation continues to happen. And I have the pleasure to have with us today David Maireles. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. David Jiménez. Tell me if I'm pronouncing it right, David.
It's okay. It's okay. It's very complicated surname.
So we know you from all your digital banking projects. You've been involved in a variety of digital banking major projects, especially in the East, starting from the Middle East and going to Vietnam. And you've also been in Europe. You are a very unique traveler, if you want, in the fintech world, and your perspectives are very valuable because most of us look at what is going on in the East from a Western perspective. You've lived through both, and as we know, the lines are blurring. Who's copying who has completely changed in terms of product innovation, but also business model innovation, which is even more important. So I'm delighted to have you with us today and pick your mind on these subjects. And I'll start, I'll dive deep in. I saw that you gave a talk recently and you opened with a provocative statement asking what is the relation between banking and Spotify, Duolingo, and Minecraft. So what is there, and what was the audience that you were provoking?
First, thanks, FP, for this opportunity. We've been engaging for many years each other on social media, so it was great to have finally meet you in this online. Regarding that slide, I posted in the summit last week. It was most traditional banks there, and I wanted to start my presentation to explain about like we as a customers, we tend, all the bankers, we tend to think about, like our products and everything. And we tend to forget that, who are we ultimate serving? It's our customers. And since I moved to Vietnam 5 years ago, it changed kind of the way I think about banking and the way I think customers are perceiving how banking should be doing. Like in the West, we have a very narrow view of, banks and banking are always, one way, while here where, 50% of the population is still unbanked or underbanked, there are many players doing a lot of things. So we have seen that, if we wanted to serve customers, we need to think in a very different way. I started, when we launched TNEX in 2020 to start thinking what are the best practices that we can copy from other industries. I think, like all of us are listening Spotify, and how good is the recommendation, right? On a Monday, you have the release radar, you have on Friday, like your topics. Now, last week, I realized that, based on the day and based on the time, I have a personalized experience. So, on Monday mornings, I will be listening more, relax, chill out, music, while on a Thursday afternoon, I may be listening kind of, jazz music. And I thought, why we cannot bring this personalization back to banking? Like when I open my bank account, and when you open the bank account, there is no personalization. I have exactly the same product, the same features, regardless that you and me may have, different stages on our life with different products necessity, different concerns, different products that we're looking for. And I think, that's still big missing. I believe, banking products are a commodity. There is no much different in the West rather than the color of the logo of the bank we're working with. I remember last week I was reading a report from Kearney saying, like Europeans are more loyal to the banks than married. 50% of Europeans, they've been banking with the same bank for more than 5 years. So while in here, where most of the customers, they're interacting with banks, but unfortunately, not many of them, they have access to the branch network. It's very expensive. So there are multiple players trying to bring banking to customers. This is why, like the second part of, the slide was about this Minecraft, this community. When you're working and when you're building something, I watch my kids, playing Minecraft, and they have a community. They meet their friends there. They even have, like dates on Minecraft. Like, we're gonna be building something, and that, like, I think when we move from physical branches to the digital world, like banking lost part of its kind of, secret ingredient, that it's, understanding your customers, creating a community, knowing, what you need at any given time, and making sure that, I giving you the right advice at the right time.
Or bring consumers together that have common goals, common, as you said, preferences, or maybe stage of life, and sharing experiences. Some of the things that I'm seeing here in the West is these efforts around financial education and creating communities, but they remain very disconnected and siloed, or they have this conflict of interest, if you want, that there's the goal of the community is to sell you a product, and it's so apparent that it doesn't have that feeling of a community that shares experiences and learns from each other, supports each other to take a step, whether it's your first step to invest, your concerns around insurance, the complicated products, or savings, or ways, or around pension, or all these issues, and we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like it's one of the most problematic parts. I have seen the rise of this influencer, these people, giving advice, how to become millionaire. And I think, like banks, they've been doing this, as you said, in a very timid way, like it doesn't feel that it's natural for them, and I think, like with all that talent, with all that knowledge, how we can, help customers on a digital channels, to remove all that uncertainty, all that, like I may be doing the wrong things. I think, one of the examples I was using, it was, like Duolingo, how Duolingo, personalize, their learning as you go. And they keep, pushing you to have strikes. And the more strikes, you feel better. And that habit about doing the right thing, we developed kind of, we use the same kind of mechanism when we were developing community savings in TNEX. We wanted, like you save money with your friends, because that will bring people together and will have a stronger stickiness of committing on a daily basis to save a little bit. It's the difficult part, especially from the younger generation, is to create this habit of having this commitment on our every day to save money. And I think banks have a massive opportunity to tap into this market, and like bring a lot of products that most of the customers are not fully aware, pension, wealth management, funds, even, like fractional shares, all these things that, for certain part of the population are accessible, but, they create a lot of friction for customers, and I'm doing the wrong things, and I may lose my money. So we need to, kind of, help and use, we use a lot of, in TNEX, a lot of gamification experience, to drive, like a very simple, seamless process for customers to try new products and explain, step by step, what are the things that they have to do.
Yeah. So it's a combination of gamification, but also behavioral economics, if you want.
Yeah.
What you described about group savings for young adults. I can see that, as I have children that are in the university, and I see how they are lost in many ways, and they just don't want to deal with, what's the best credit card? Should I have credit cards? Where to invest, how to start investing in all those topics that are even, important for adults, because even adults have stereotypical thinking that if you don't have enough money, you can't start investing. And that is, even here in Switzerland, that you would think that you would have a highly educated population and a higher standard of living. That I know from the Swiss FinTech Ladies Association that there are so many women that have never taken the first step of investing. That is mind-boggling, because there is a lot of information, there are a lot of, products or ways, but how do you get, somebody to press the first button is a journey that has to be integrated with the product. And
I think we're overloaded in information, so we can access to every information. The question remains of, can I trust this information? And I think, it comes with the ultimate, feeling that most of the customers in the West, given, the latest thing that happened in the last, decade of, me selling products is the bank selling me the right product, for me, or is because this quarter I need to send home insurance, and, that's home insurance is for everyone, or I'm selling unsecured loans. And I think, like, if you start, kind of rethinking about using first principle, okay, different customers will require different products. The ultimate product could be the same. It's how customers get there. And I think, it's that transition from selling products to solving customer needs is where we can get back and remove all that friction. I remember for many, many years when my parents were buying online tickets to come and see me, they said, you buy because I'm not sure if I gonna, like spend the money, or suddenly I gonna, choose the wrong flight. So these things, like we have a lot of, a technology, to help customers to ensure that we're guiding them through about what are the next steps. And I think, once we turn this, problem around, instead of selling products, a new way of, customers that, we think you were mentioning, women in Switzerland, they don't invest. It's like, how on earth, the most, probably the most financial educated country with the Nordics or in the world. And still, many people are left behind for different reasons, maybe trust, because access is available, but, like some of the information, like we're bombarded about, like new information. And with, all this Gen AI, we don't know, is this correct? Is fraud? It's can I rely? Is it the correct information for me? So these are the things, like the banks, should be focusing on, to think about how the new generations are going to consume banking products.
Yeah. David, since you are in Indonesia, give us a pulse of the embedded finance trend. And when I say embedded finance, I'm talking about embedding financial products and services in non-financial, businesses. And of course, before we developed the term of embedded finance, it was happening in Southeast Asia for the reasons that we discussed before. But what is going on now? Is the trend continuing? Is it only about payments? Is there any innovation? Give us a sense of what is going on in that region.
I think here it's embedded everything. Most customers, they've been data only. This part of the world, most of the customers they spend between 7 to 8 hours on a daily basis on internet, consuming, TV streaming, playing games, social media, watching YouTube, following people on Instagram. So people here are, like companies here, financial service is the backbone of everything we do. Everything, 80% of all the things we do on a daily basis require, financial products. It's 6.5 trillion in revenues, financial service industry. And that's why, every other industry wants to get into financial services. Why? Because if you remove what is the biggest drop off of any sector will be the checkout. Okay, how I'm selling my products and customers they can pay for the goods. This is why here TikTok was the first one to start selling through the platform, embedding e-commerce with social media and embedded payments, and it started to roll out in different countries. Because in China, this trend has been ongoing for the past 3-4 years with a lot of success. Here, where most of the customers I was mentioning before, they don't have access to financial services, are any company. You can think about e-commerce, social media, mobile wallet, any other company, even a gaming company called Raisin, had a joint venture to launch payments in this part of the world. Here, like companies are thinking how I can get the job done, and if they need to embed financial services, let be it. And I think like here in Asia, most of the customers they don't have that direct relationship between banking and banks. I think banking is something that is happening and doesn't need to be necessarily provided by the bank. And I think why the Grab are launching, 2 digital banks in 2 countries. SIA Bank, part of, where one of the retail conglomerate, has launched a digital bank in 4 countries. Why, telcos are jumping into launching digital banks here. Here, everyone, it's trying to get into financial services because that will allow them to grow on selling more products on e-commerce, to try new things on social media, to making sure that the customers they can get access to not only banking or bank accounts and payments, but also we have seen how many different companies are launching micro investment options, micro lending, micro insurance. Here it's the region where micro real time and personalized offers will boom in the next few years, thanks to to the dynamics of this part of the world where real-time payments are getting interconnected between the different countries in Southeast Asia, and how the regional commerce between the different companies are going to boom in the next few years of customers traveling, doing international transactions with their peers in this part of the world.
And all this for now is mostly direct to the consumer, or are you seeing similar trends at the business to business level?
For the time being, they're focusing more on the retail. I see in the last couple of years a rise in the SME side, where SME, we know it's the backbone of any economy in terms of employment. For example, in this part of the world, 70% of the GDP is driven by this sector, while in Europe or the US will be around 30-40% maximum. So like here, the SME sector, it's one of the untapped market. They're on the retail, the middle class that was non-existent a few years ago, and the SMEs, the micro SMEs that here are being ignored. because they were transacting in cash. They didn't have access to lending. They were relying on friends and family. And now they have seen, digital banks and other embedded finance company, the opportunity to untap this huge market where they can start serving millions of SMEs and micro SMEs to get access to, to digital payments, to bank account, to savings product, to wealth management, to insurance, and ultimate to lending products that is, one of the biggest, revolution in the next few years here.
Yeah. So what are the big names that are players in this area, and especially, connecting or traveling cross-border? I mean, I know of the Alipay Plus wallet that is, seamlessly connecting or enabling merchants to have all these wallets without needing to integrate each one.
Yes.
What other players are there that are enablers to make this happen?
So we have seen a rise of new players. We have seen, air wallets, we have, you were mentioning Alipay Plus. We have seen other also traditional banks, jumping into this, have seen Citibank, helping and trying to, use their vast network of payment, to help players, to offer multi-currency opportunities. There are many Boku. I have seen, like a lot of, players that are trying to enable, because, in the past, most of the payments were local. And has been a new trend in the last few years, and also a push from the regulators, to bring Southeast Asia together. So, a lot of, bilateral agreements between Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Indonesia, trying to, make sure that, when customers are traveling, we have seen the rise of UPI in India, and how, you can pay with UPI in Nepal, you can pay in UAE. They're, bringing that to even France, and how, like these, local payment system are going international. Yeah. And they are trying, to grab all these, influx of people that are first travelers, that they join the middle class. They wanted to first travel a little bit, buy the new car, getting the new iPhone. So a lot of things, are happening, and many companies, they are realized that, 50% of the population live in Asia. And with the rise of the GDP here, I think, it's forecasted for 2024 to be around 3-4%. So it's, numbers that, like in Europe or on the US, we haven't seen for a very long time. Here, there's kind of, an untapped market on everything you can think of, from payments, from savings, but every new service I see is always with a twist, like they do group savings, but, by bringing customers, they do. For example, I was explaining the other day, in India, they do, like rounding ups, but instead of, putting in a savings account, JAR, it's allowing customers to buy gold, digital gold. In India, gold is really important. So they have, kind of bring back online, kind of the offline behavior of Indian people, that they wanted to buy gold because, they thought it's, that they think it's a very safe investment. And they're bringing, the rounding up, that it's a new way of, promoting, because we have seen from 2015, I think it was less than 20% of the transactions were doing digitally. By 2025, I think it's going to be 98% of all transactions done by UPI. So, with all these transactions, new companies and finding a new way of how we can, like bring new experience from other industries, and making sure that, like they are engaged, they create an emotional connection with customers, rather than this is my product, you deal with that. And and making sure that, more customers, get access to these products that otherwise, with, traditional banks, with vast branch network where CAC for these customers will be 200, they won't be making $201 out of these people that are making, like 100 on a monthly basis. So, but these digital banks, these, e-commerce, these social media, these telcos, they have a very large networks, and they are, taking advantage of that, and, creating new products, new banking products, underneath, and then putting and applying kind of like a new embedded experience into, okay, how we can connect and bring something, from video games, from music, from dating apps, from video streaming into banking.
Interesting. And what about the big hype around generative AI? What are you seeing in Indonesia and Southeast Asia?
But we have seen how, not banks, I have seen how TikTok, how incredible that is their algorithm. You can go there and you don't realize that you have spent the last 20 minutes of your life by watching short videos. And it's because, the machine learning, was, and the AI, it's so good, it's giving you. And we have seen also e-commerce player trying to, when you're, looking for a product, the recommendation of other products. I think, on the banking side, we're gonna see a new trend. I think, Klarna last week, ditched, Salesforce and all the SaaS provider and doing everything in-house. We're gonna see and hear, because, the lack of legacy banking system, we're gonna see that the new players are gonna take advantage. I was analyzing last week, but Bank Jago from Indonesia, with one single employee, they can serve 20,000 customers. For traditional banks, that ratio is 1 to 400. So, and that's before AI. I think with AI, we can see, banks be super lean, super optimized, because over and over, and I think all of us in one way or another, we're playing with Gen AI, and it may not be super intelligent yet, but oh my God, I mean, it's amazing how this technology has evolved in the last 7 months. I mean, truly remarkable. We have seen and we played, it was magic at that point, but now, with every new release, we have seen that, we can write, we can code, we can, get ideas, we can do research, we can analyze data, like banking, it's all about, gather data, synthesize data, and get insights for some department or another. Like if we can do this.
There's a lot of unstructured data in financial services that financial services haven't been able to really leverage and parse in a way to extract value. So there's definitely and I mean, at least in the West, I see all the compliance and regulatory gains that can come out of that, with given the complexity and the ever-changing growth there, just there, and at the customer experience level, there's clearly going to be gains from those that are able to deploy these models.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like 70% of people, they will be willing to share the data with the banking provider in order to get a personalized experience. And I think, if we see that trade-off, I think the problem right now is we're kind of giving away or not making sure what are they using our data for. And I think, that's kind of the distrust between customers and banks. And is, banks are, gathering an amazing amount of data, how we pay, when we pay, what's my salary, who's transferring money, who I transfer money to. And regardless of all that data, there is no personalization. I have the same homepage that my father has. Like I don't have the same offers, when there is a cashback from Visa or MasterCard. I have the same as, like my friends, with many different between the people. And I think, like, it's okay about, giving, and especially, in this part of the world, like privacy, it's not taken as seriously as we take in Europe. But, like people will be willing, to share the data if I have a truly remarkable and personal experience. If you can have my Netflix experience into banking, I think most of us will say, okay, where I need to sign, I will be willing to try this new feature.
I always say, David, I share my personal experience that I have two kids, and when they became 18, why didn't my bank provider come to me and say, your son, your daughter has become 18. What do you need? I want, to serve them, right? Because up until then, we probably had a joint account, a joint. Nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. I'm just stunned. How is that possible, right?
And it's not because of the data. They have the data. It's just, they are not using that data. Like your order, to get your mortgage, it doesn't matter. 3 months, if they are now selling unsecured loans, you will be on that list. Like
yes.
We need to move up, life events, because, like it doesn't matter what age you are, what's my segment, like people have, different experience. And I think, with very little data, we can make banking way better than it is right now. It's just, we just need to make sure, and going back to, again, first principle, who am I serving and what are their needs?
Yeah. I another personal example is, I have a business credit card, right? And once or twice a year, when it happens that I'm traveling, too much, right? Too many air tickets, too many hotels, too many conferences, right? And I have a limit of 5,000, right, on my card. But once or twice a year, I reach that. So what is it that I have to either use another card or call to get an extension? They should be seeing and saying, wait a minute, you reach your limit this month. Do you need an increase of
Exactly.
and this is what I can give you. And, that would be service, right?
Yeah, I think you actually, like spot on there. Like one of the things Nubank is doing with the lending proposition, like especially with the unbanked, is, grow and learn. They give you something, and as you use the credit card, they will learn what are your patterns. What are you going, and they see you're paying back on time. Okay, they will increase your limit. If they know that Effie is, traveling all around the world, why not, allowing her to change dynamically that limit,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I pay on time and so on. And
Exactly.
why don't they do it, dynamically? Have a button and say, do you need this? And the first time it can be, another 1,000, and then the next time it can be more, and so on. This is customer service, right?
Yeah, it's customer experience, like, I remember back in my days with traditional banks, information was power, and information was not shared across different departments. And I think that's kind of what the big problem, lies in, banking and data. It's not, I mean, even if you think about one single product, you were mentioning credit card, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to talk with the lending team. You don't need to talk with, transactional banking. Just with the debit card data, you can actually, look at a heat map. Okay, 3-4 times, Effie is traveling, like I will be, like surprised if Effie suddenly it's in Africa. Okay, we can prompt. Okay, we can check, are you in Africa? Do you recognize this? But, if you're going to the same places, like why, banks are not leveraging that data, to be more proactive. I think, like digital banking has made banks kind of lazy in the way of, they are still waiting customers, to interact with them. And I think that has happened, like customers nowadays, they have a span of control, of a few seconds. Either you're with them or you're not. I mean, and sadly, we have seen where, less and less other industries are raising the bar. They know better, like I was mentioning, Spotify, Netflix, Amazon, when we're buying, they're really good at, understanding what's the most relevant thing that we may need later. So if I, been traveling a lot, like maybe I can upgrade you to a different, international credit card, with higher limits, whatever. It's about the small things, and it's more about, having a holistic approach about customer experience and not thinking about products, because, customers are, if you look at the customer journeys, customers, the more channels you have, the more products, the more chaotic is that journey, because you may jump into, I want to have a phone call, or I may drop to the app and I wanted to talk with a chatbot. Sometimes I want to speak with an agent because this thing is a little bit more urgent. And sometimes like I just want to have, do you want to upgrade, change your limit for 10,000? You're close to reach your limit. Very beautiful. You will feel instantly the connection and understanding that they're using your data to provide you a better services. And I think that connection, it's year over year.
It is missing. So there's so much more to be done, and the customer is king. We are everybody's competing to serve us better,
Yeah.
and that is the reality of it. So before we close, David, what is exciting for you going forward? What's on your radar and excites you in fintech?
Everything about financial inclusion. I moved back to Asia after a short stint in the Middle East because I still see more than 500 million population unbanked, another billion only underbanked. They may have a bank account and digital payments, but they don't have access, to many financial services. And one of the things, like I'm trying to become kind of, the bridge of, like Asia. The West is not always the best. We tend to forget, like innovation is only happening in San Francisco or London or Berlin. And I think it's a lot of innovation happening in this part of the world. A lot of opportunities, and with lack VC investment, people are very creative and very innovative about how we can help as many millions of people. So I'm very bullish about that there will be banking as a service, embedded finance, super apps, a combination of all these things, and how these will create a new subset of products. I think one of the things I wanted to focus on, it's on bringing banking products to a new experience. And as we were mentioning before, how we can bring real-time, gamified, personalized experience to banking, and kind of wrapping banking products with a different skin. If Fortnite is changing their skin or their pass every 3 months, why banking still offering me the same products over and over? And I think we need to rethink up again about what our customers' problems nowadays, and how we can bring the banking 2.0 from term deposits to savings goals to unsecured lending to buy now pay later, from wealth management to micro or fractional serves into customers. And I think that creativity, that innovation, it's gonna flourish in the next few years. Thanks to technology, we're gonna see the next generations of entrepreneurs trying to kind of tackle this massive problem that we're still having nowadays. That there is too many people underbanked and unbanked in the world.
Very exciting. I guess there is so much more impact on what is done in the region, because you're really seeing the change in the life of individuals, of companies, of the whole economy at the end of the day, versus developed countries where we're really looking at changing inefficiencies and maybe a fairer distribution of capital. It's a different goals, different kind of impact. And I wish you the best, and we'll be in
Thank you.
touch. And
Definitely.
thank you very much.